All right, let's talk Penguin episode 4. I was shaking after that episode. I just can't believe it. I've said it many times. It's only been 4 episodes, but I last episode I said this might be one of the best television episodes ever. And this episode 4, I I just can't believe what they're able to do with this show. It's so incredible and unbelievable, and I can't wait to talk about it with you guys here on the Access Blockbusters Pod. So this is going to be a full spoiler discussion for the Penguin episode 4 as we get ready for episode 5 coming up very soon. Let me know in the comments what you think about it. If you haven't seen episode 4 yet, then make sure to save this to watch later. I know that because of the release schedule, these spoiler discussions don't come out until right before the next episode, but hopefully it'll be a nice little primer before we get ready for the next episode, just to catch you guys up as I like to do a little bit of a play-by-play on the episode as a whole. So hopefully it'll remind you guys of what happened and then some of the things that, really got you excited and got me excited as we head into the next episode. Just the way that the timing works out. I wish I could release it right after the episodes come out, but unfortunately that's just not the case. So, let's buckle in because spoiler discussion for episode 4 of The Penguin. Now, episode 4 of The Penguin is amazing. It's just incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And, I was listening to the John Campea Show podcast that I listen to once in a while, and he was answering a question from somebody about the distinction between favorite and best. And, for him, he said he's gone back and forth on this and said that he used to think there was a distinction between his favorite show, for example, and the best show. And nowadays he says he thinks there really is no distinction. He says what separates favorite and best? Well, why isn't your favorite show the best show to you? And that's true. I think that's fair. I happen to think a little differently at this point in time that, while I'm not afraid to say that my favorite shows are my favorite shows, I don't really care that you don't think that the writing is super top, because I think we all approach different shows and different art forms from different perspectives, right? And I think that just makes different art speak to us differently, even though I think there are pieces of art that we can acknowledge are, for us personally, it just stands out in a way where it's maybe not your favorite, but it's really good for you personally. And The Penguin is becoming one of those shows. Like I've been saying in the past couple episode breakdowns, spoiler discussions, this is not personally a show that was made for someone like me. There were many moments in episode 4 that I was shaking and I was uncomfortable in the ways that, the showrunners were exactly intending, right? It's not like, uncomfortable in a bad way necessarily. Unlike, I think, some scenes in Joker 2, for example. No, there are some scenes in episode 4 of The Penguin where I was just goosebumps and shaking and visceral reactions. And that's exactly what the show was trying to do, right? Especially those scenes in Arkham. And, I like that. This is not going to be a show that I put on all the time. Like, that's one of the criteria I have for one of my favorite shows. Like Friends, for example, it's a comfort show, right? This is certainly not a comfort show, but it is so well made, and that's just undeniable to me. And I'm just so glad I'm able to watch it and really appreciate it, even if it doesn't become a show that I rewatch over and over again. So let's, I've taken notes as always. Let's dive into episode 4 of The Penguin here. So we're going to start out here, and we actually go back to the ending of episode 3, which I love. I immediately, once I realized what was going on here, I thought that was awesome because it gives context now. One of the questions that we had at the end of episode 3 was, wait a second, what's going on with Penguin when he basically ditches Sofia Falcone? And he's like, no, we got to leave her. I was like, whoa, you just told Sofia, hey, you just told Sofia, I'm going to be with you. You can trust me. You can learn to trust me. And all of a sudden, then we cut to Vic, slamming the car into that SUV. And Penguin's like, no, we got to go. And so I was like, hey, what's going on? And we get those little behind the scenes details filled in for us here because, well, the Maronis are confronting Oz, and he's essentially turning his back on Sofia. So it's also adding more layers to the dimensionality of Oz as he is showing his duplicitous side. He's, and really showing how he's trying to play this game. And again, I've been saying this for basically the whole season. How how much is he, gonna get away with this? I don't know. It's crazy. It's so crazy. And he really wasn't in this episode at all, except for those scenes at the beginning and then some flashback scenes. But he'll be back. Obviously, it's his show, and he's in such trouble, especially with the place that Sofia is at the end of the episode. She has full control of the Falcone Empire, I suppose, and she's untethered. And it's going to be just a wild second half of the season. I'm so on board for it, so I'm so ready. So it immediately becomes clear that this is a Sofia episode. And, I think that it's such a rich idea to then, at this point, once we've gotten to know these characters now interacting with one another, Oz and Sofia, now we get to see their backstory, especially once we've gotten hints that the fact that Oz betrayed Sofia in a certain way, and now he's betrayed her even more, which is crazy. So we get some backstory here. And a huge credit to Kristen Milioti. I think that this episode cements, I think she should get serious Emmy consideration. If she doesn't get Emmy consideration, then there were other actresses. I don't actually remember how many actresses and actors get nominated for each category for the Emmys. But, I mean, that means that there were, 3-4 other actresses that just topped her or were equal to her. It's just incredible. I can't see it, but if it happens, that's an amazing year for television. But I think she deserves all the praise, just as much as Colin Farrell does. I think that she is surpassing him in the acting, in acting in general. Although Colin Farrell has been amazing in the show, so just been truly amazing to watch because she looks so much happier in these flashback sequences, which makes her performances in the previous episodes even more promising. And even the little girl, I got chills when I realized that little girl Sofia, in the flashback of the flashback, was seeing her own mother hung up there, and that's just a terrifying thing. So it's already becoming apparent that even as a very young girl, Sofia Falcone has gone through some really terrible things in her childhood as being part of the Falcone family. We get introduced to Mark Strong as Carmine Falcone. He does a good job. He plays a young John Turturro pretty well, and it's it's interesting because Carmine told Sofia explicitly that she'd take over, and then he's so quick to backstab her right after that, which is it just shows the nature of this family, this gang family, the Falcones. And the intrigue of the beginning of this episode is who killed Isabella Falcone, and we quickly realize that it is Carmine, and Carmine is covering for himself by sending Sofia to Arkham. Just a heinous, terrible thing that he did there. And the relationship between those two, at first it seems so interesting, right? It's so what's the word? It's parasitic almost, but it's loving in a scary way. But as we see, it's very one-sided because Carmine is so quick to turn his back on Sofia as soon as he realizes that she's maybe getting inklings that he is behind the murders of those people who are working for him, the women who are working for him, and then also his wife and Sofia's mother. And so it's you start to piece that together that it's Carmine, and then she found out, and then Oz betrayed her. That was what I was thinking early on, and then we kind of get that fleshed out throughout the rest of the episode. And it's scary because Sofia. Look, I mean, Sofia is part of the Falcone family, right? And so it's not like I'm sure she had to do some pretty bad things even before she went to Arkham. But it's what's even scarier as we go through the progression of this episode is that Sofia wasn't she wasn't a goody two shoes, right? She wasn't an upstanding citizen. She wasn't like Diana Prince, Wonder Woman, Amazons. She wasn't like that. But I think you see hints of her trying to be a good person in whatever capacity that means, in whatever in the environment that she was in. And she goes to the reporter, and then she gets kind of defensive about it, which I think is an interesting move there, because I think that it's the family kind of pulling her back to who the Falcones are. And then Sofia, kind of lashing out at Oz, right? That's also part of Oz's supervillain story, although I think Oz was always kind of a bad person anyways, but it was always part of his story where, Sofia was telling him, nobody cares about you, Oz, and then later she tries to pretend to be all nice to him. She's saying, oh, you have a good suit and you look good. But I think that part of her lashing out to Oz was the beginning. I think the beginning of him really starting to despise her or be wary of her, because, I wonder, and maybe we'll never know the answer to this, I wonder how much Oz in the present day actually cared about Sofia before he turned his back on her again. And who knows, maybe they're both playing each other. Maybe Sofia really thought Oz cared about her. But, I don't think both sides are completely innocent of this, because I think you see it in that scene in the car where Sofia's like, nobody cares about you, Oz, just drive, and I think that really hurt Oz in that way. And, we see the arrest, and it just got me thinking, right? It's such a tragic story. If Sophia was born into a different family, into a different world, she could have been a really good person. And that's sort of the line of thinking it gets you thinking about philosophy and life and circumstances that people are born into. And, it's just a really sad thing that she had to become the person that she became because her family was so awful to her, especially her father was so awful to her. So she gets arrested, and it looks like at least Oz was pretending to care. So we'll see. We'll see where the original heartbreak happened with Oz here, or with Sophia, who thought that Oz betrayed her. I guess it was, Oz ratting her out to her father, but it looked like Oz was trying to get her back, and maybe he did actually regret Sophia being arrested there. Who knows? But it's so unbelievably tragic, and then it just gets terrifying, guys. Like, these scenes in Arkham, again, are meant to portray a specific emotion, just how terrible and terrifying Arkham was. And I mean, my gosh, it's horrifying. The shower scenes, right? Her being examined by the doctor, and the electroshock therapy, and and then Magpie trying to talk to her through the walls, which is crazy. It was so creepy. It's so scary. And then they ratcheted it up even more when that other inmate is basically beats her in the cafeteria. Just terrifying. But it's like you see Sophia and she's doing terrible. I mean, she kills a bunch of people at the end of this episode. She's not a good person at the end of this episode, but you see the downfall of this character, and you just can't help but feel. I don't know. It's hard to feel. It's hard to say sympathy because you know what she's done, and this is what good shows do. It complicates everything, right? For you as the audience member, it complicates how you feel, and you look at these characters. You look at Oz, right? Oz had a terrible upbringing, and he's doing terrible things, but he also sees some similarities between him and Vic, and that's what's motivating him to keep Vic around in some sort of toxic, loving, mentorship relationship. And Sophia had just gone through so much, and it's almost like, I'm gonna say this, and maybe it sounds weird because obviously maybe I'm just making a false comparison between two DC properties, but it's almost like this show is doing Joker but better. I mean, not the first Joker necessarily, maybe the second Joker more so, but just talking about what a prison can do to a person, and all the terrible things that they have to go through. I don't know, maybe I'll have to think about that a little bit longer. But anyways, another DC comparison I was thinking about, by the way, because one can't help but wonder. I mean, you're in Arkham, right? And it's clear that these are all the female prisoners, and so I was thinking, is there going to be a Harley cameo? I didn't think so. I don't think Matt Reeves is going to touch Harley Quinn for a little while. I mean, he has a Joker in his universe with Barry Keoghan, so who knows? Maybe Harley was in there somewhere. But anyways, that also got me thinking, as I was thinking about a potential Harley cameo, that this is almost like those in the original, the first Suicide Squad, how there were those weirdly edited flashback scenes where Jared Leto's Joker is torturing Harley, and it kind of got played off as this weird stylistic thing. If you go rewatch those scenes, and when I do my rewatch of Suicide Squad eventually, hopefully in the near future, as I'm did Man of Steel, and then I'm gonna get to Batman v Superman. But it is interesting to see those scenes again and just kind of be like, these are tragic, horrific things that just kind of played off as a montage, and it's almost like this was Harley Quinn but better, like this was what the effect of that was supposed to be. And then also we see the deterioration of the walls of her prison cell turning into her bedroom, which is also just terrifying. I mean, that's such good visual imagery, right? And then she snaps, and it's the juxtaposition, right? It's the juxtaposition of her screaming, "I told you I'm innocent," while she kills somebody. I'm at a loss for words, at how good that writing was, because she doesn't have to say, "I'm innocent and I'm gonna kill this woman for what you did to me." She just says, "I told you I'm innocent." She screams it, and she just kills somebody, and it's awful, and it's crazy, and it's horrific. And so that ends the flashback portion of this episode, and I thought the whole episode was just going to be a flashback, and I would have been totally fine with that, honestly. Some episodes it kind of comes off as clunky, like, why do we need a whole flashback episodes? But other shows, it works, right? I think The Last of Us had a whole flashback episode towards the end with Ellie. Is that Bella Ramsey's character? I'm totally forgetting now. And the other girl. I haven't played the games. I only saw the show once. But you know that entire flashback episode in the mall, right? I mean, some shows can pull it off, like The Last of Us. And so I thought I'd be totally fine if this entire episode was just a flashback because it was a flashback. That's totally fine. But they decide to frame it as her having a nightmare and waking up with that doctor Julian Rush, I think, or something like that. And that adds a whole extra layer of intrigue, like what's going on there. The whole relationship between those two, I wonder if they're going to explore it a little more because it's creepy and it's twisted, and I don't know. I don't really know what to make of it, so I'd be curious to see if they go anywhere with that at all. And then she goes to the family dinner, and you can tell something's different now. She's untethered. She's completely untethered. She's lost the one person she thought she could trust, which is Oz. And by the way, she reveals she was in Arkham for 10 years. Just seeing a few instances of the shock therapy, and to think that went on for 10 years just makes me shudder. Like, even now as I'm recording the podcast, I'm getting goosebumps and chills. It's crazy. It's crazy. And yeah, I mean, I was watching the rest of the episode, and the whole time, it cuts to her talking to is that her niece or anyway, someone's daughter. And I knew she had killed everyone. I actually didn't expect her to keep anyone alive, and it turns out that she kept Johnny Vitti alive, I guess, for some reason. But yeah, I knew she killed everyone. And I actually would have thought that she just shot everyone in the dining hall. I guess she used some kind of gas or carbon monoxide or something. I don't know. I don't know why she kept Johnny Vitti alive. Obviously, that's the last shot of the show or of the episode, and so we'll find out in the next episode, presumably. But yeah, I mean, I knew that was going to happen, and now it's perfect because we're halfway through the show. By the way, guys, it's been 4 episodes, we're halfway, and how satisfying does this show feel so far, right? I mean, again, I'm not saying Agatha all along had to be on par in terms of quality with the Penguin or something like that, but halfway through Agatha all along, I'm like, where are we going? Where are we going? Where are we going? And I understand the Penguin is meant to be more of a mini series, and Agatha all along is meant to be sort of serialized television, although they have the exact same episode count. No, not the exact. One is 8 episodes, one is 9 episodes. So I'm just saying it's not like they're too far apart, but you know what I mean, right? Like, there are plenty of other Disney Plus MCU shows, like, I don't know, Ahsoka, for example. Ahsoka had 8 episodes. Halfway through, I was like, where are we going? I don't really know. Nothing's really happening except for that really amazing episode 5, which is a flashback episode into Clone Wars, which is awesome. But, I mean, it's just like what's happening. And this show, I don't know, every single episode feels like a feast. And at this point, I've watched half of this show. I feel so satisfied. I feel like, yeah, we're ready for it to start going down towards the finale. And it's such an amazing contrast because, by the way, in terms of content, in terms of minutes, we've basically gotten a whole Disney Plus show already, and we're only halfway through the Penguin. It's incredible. Disney, please take notes. I hope Daredevil has like 40 to 50 minute episodes, and there are 9 of them. Because, oh my gosh, this is incredible. Again, like I've said at the beginning, this show is not really quote unquote for me. Doesn't mean I'm not getting immense enjoyment out of it, because I am, but I'm also, it's not the kind of show that, just gives me the kind of comfort and the kind of excitement that I need. And I like out of shows that I consider my favorites. But again, I'm just, every single aspect of the show, it amazes me, it thrills me, and it's amazing television, and I hope that it gets all the praise and accolades that it can possibly get. I'm just so excited to see where it goes from here, and it's just refreshing, to see this universe built out even more so, and I hope that it continues to be built out even more in the future. So guys, what did you think of episode 4 of The Penguin? Is this your favorite episode? I still think episode 3 is a little bit better for me, but my gosh, episode 4, this show just keeps getting better and better and better and better. So let me know in the comments down below, what did you think of episode 4 of The Penguin? I'd love to hear all your thoughts below, and where do you guys think we're going in the next few episodes? I'd also love to hear some of your theories and thoughts and observations, some speculations as to where you think the episodes are going to lead as we head to the finale. You think Sofia's going to die? I'm sure that Oz is going to survive and be in the Batman Part 2, but is Sofia going to survive and be the head of the Falcons by the time the Batman Part 2 comes out? Who knows? Guys, it'll be exciting. So let me know in the comments down below.